Welcome back, everyone. My name is Kristyn. My pronouns are she, her. And today I'm going to be talking about the 3 things I wish I knew before I made my first feature film. For a little bit of context, I made my first feature film, Golden Delicious, in spring of 2021. And it was an ultra low budget film. We made it for almost no money, but it went on to have lots of success and was a really fun experience. But of course, there were definitely things that I learned along the way and things I wish I had known before I even started. So today I'm going to count up to the 3 things I wish I knew before I made my first feature film. Number 3 is I was going to have some hard conversations. Obviously, filmmaking is a team activity, and a crew is like an ecosystem, and it's not always going to gel and get along. So one of the things I knew as a leader of a team is you're going to have to deal with some issues. But there was just a lot of hard conversations that had to come up that I had to be brave enough to tackle and take on and not avoid. So, whether it was people that were choosing to leave or conflict or, weren't working out as part of the team, that it was a lot of managing that ecosystem and making sure everyone is feeling seen, heard, and respected and valued as part of the team. There are definitely times that you're going to have hard conversations. And even though I conceptually knew that, doing it in practice was a totally different thing. The second thing that I wish I knew before making my feature film is that it's okay not to do full days on set. As the lead producer, and at the time we had no other producers on the project, it definitely landed to me to do all the paperwork, all the payroll, all the logistical detail management. And I quickly realized that on set is not the ideal place to have all of that happen. Sometimes there's unreliable internet, or there's just no good workstation, or there's just too much going on set. And, dealing with some sensitive information too, like when I was doing payroll, I obviously don't want to be logging into the banking system on a public Wi-Fi network. So quickly I realized that I could not do it all because I was trying to fit all that stuff in on evenings or on weekends, our precious time off, and it just wasn't feasible. I was totally going to burn out if I kept that up. So once I gave myself permission to not be on set all day and to carve out a couple hours to go home and deal with all those other things I needed to deal with, things went a lot smoother. So I think that at the start, though, you feel this expectation that you should be on set all day, every day, managing, but that is something I learned quickly that it's just not feasible. And the number one thing I wish I knew before making my feature film is that it's not as scary and overwhelming as I was imagining it to be. I unfortunately had a lot of anxiety heading into the project. I had this pressure I was putting on myself, that this was like my one shot, and if I messed it up, no one would ever give me another opportunity, and there were so many ways things could go wrong. I was, up at night imagining all these crazy scenarios of things that would happen to gear or people or locations that would just shut us down, and that then I would be letting the whole team down, and I'd be letting down the Vancouver film community. Suffice to say, I just had a lot of crazy anxiety leading into the production. And so the lesson I learned is that once I got on set, all that calmed down, because then I was just dealing with the problems that were actually arising versus the problems I was imagining in my head. And I remembered that I am good at problem solving and I am capable, and this is something I can do, and that the whole team is also behind me and on my side, and we're all working towards the same goal of making the best film possible. So once I got on set and was dealing with those issues, thankfully all that anxiety started to dissipate. And now, having that experience and knowing that, I feel much more confident and much more prepared heading into making Switchback. Next week, you're going to hear from Mel, who's going to talk about the 3 things they learned from making their first feature. So tune in for part 2 to get their good advice and lessons as well.